Hello and welcome, I'm Ellie Richardson and you're watching The World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of this hour. US President Donald Trump hopes Ukraine reaches a deal with Russia fast ahead of Washington-Brooker talks in Geneva today. Trump is pushing to end the conflict, but two previous rounds of US-mediated talks in Abu Dhabi did not yield any signs of a breakthrough. US President Donald Trump said that he would be involved indirectly in high-stake talks between Iran and the US over Tehran's nuclear program in Geneva, adding he believed Tehran wanted to make a deal. French President Emmanuel Macron begins a three-day visit to India on Tuesday, with talks focused on artificial intelligence cooperation and a potential multi-billion-dollar assault rifle fighter jet deal. President Donald Trump has said Cuba was a failed nation and called on Havana to make a deal. Washington is in talks with Cuba's highest people just days after he threatened the island's struggling economy with what he described as a virtual oil blockade. Three people, including the suspect, were fatally shot during a Rhode Island youth hockey game. Pawtucket Police Chief Tina Goncalves told reporters that three other victims were hospitalized in critical condition. The shooter died from an apparent self-inflicted gun wound, she said. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has said his government would not help Australians in a Syrian camp holding families of suspected Islamic State militants return home, with the government open to prosecutions if they make it back. Ireland's Data Protection Commission said it had opened a formal investigation into X's AI chatbot Grok over the processing of personal data and its potential to produce harmful sexualized images and videos, including of children. India is hosting the highly anticipated AI Impact Summit at the Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the summit this evening, kicking off a transformative conversation on artificial intelligence. The summit, which will run until February the 20th, brings together global leaders, innovators and policymakers, including French President Emmanuel Macron, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, and Brazilian President Luiz Inacio Lula da Silva, to explore AI's potential in shaping the future. The summit's theme reflects India's commitment to using AI for the greater good, striving for welfare and happiness for all. Attendees will experience live demonstrations and exhibits from 300 pavilions, featuring contributions from 13 countries, including the United Kingdom, Japan, Russia and Australia. With over 7,000 square meters of space, the summit provides a platform for collaboration among businesses, startups, state governments and research institutions. Additionally, international delegates will engage in discussions about exploring new opportunities within the global AI ecosystem. Meanwhile, Estonia President Alar Karas has arrived in Delhi to participate in the India AI Impact Summit. Indian Union Minister of State for Youth Affairs and Sports Raksha Khadisi welcomed him at the airport. His visit is aimed at strengthening bilateral ties, specifically in digital governance, AI innovation, cybersecurity, and innovation. As we know, with the AI Impact Summit, there is going to be many major heads of states, prime ministers, presidents joining, coming to India today for the rest of the week. Now for your top story this hour. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has warned that more Russian attacks will make it even more difficult to reach an agreement on ending the war. Zelenskyy said Ukrainian intelligence reports indicated that Russia would continue to launch massive attacks on energy targets. He also noted that Russian attacks are evolving with a combination of weapons requiring special defenses. Zelenskyy revealed that he signed a decree to sanction 10 Russian athletes who support Russia's aggression. The package was formed after a petition by Ukrainian Olympic skeleton racer Vladislav Hurashkevich, who was disqualified from the Winter Games for wearing a helmet commentating athletes killed in the war. We are now being joined by Ambassador KP Fabian, who's a former diplomat, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World. Zelenskyy describes Russian strikes as evolving, with combinations of weapons requiring special defences. What does this evolution mean for Ukraine's air defence strategy and for international security assistance?
Thank you. My view is that as far as the war is concerned, Ukraine has been losing for a long time, and it does not make much sense to prolong a war, especially when one is losing the war. Zelenskyy is doing what he should not be doing. And as regards the international situation, I would say that, if the war gets prolonged, then possible that the president can lose interest. In which case, Russia will go on pounding Ukraine, and more people will be killed in Ukraine. And as you know, the energy system in Ukraine is not at all, has been damaged severely, and the Ukrainians are sort of, shivering in the winter. So the situation is serious. The sooner this war ends, better, and Zelenskyy should ask for the best possible terms and end it, and sort of look at an opportunity later to rectify anything wrong with the terms.
Thank you, Ambassador KP Fabian, but please don't go too far, as we will be back with you momentarily. Let's listen to what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy had to say.
Доповідає про підготовку росіян до подальших масованих ударів по енергетиці. Треба, щоб ППО було налаштовано правильно. Російські атаки постійно, якщо так можна сказати, еволюціонують. Зло теж розвивається, на жаль. Це комбіновані удари, які вимагають особливого захисту, відповідної підтримки від партнерів. Будь-яке гальмування ракет для ППО, будь-яке невчасне постачання працює на масштабування шкоди від ударів. Треба, щоб усе те, про що ми говорили в Мюнхені, з партнерами було реалізовано оперативно. Важливо, щоб партнери не мовчали.
France has offered asylum to Alexei Ishimov, an anti-Kremlin Russian activist who was detained by the US authorities. Alexei arrived in Paris on February the 16th, but his wife Nadizhda was stopped from boarding her flight because of a temporary travel document. The couple who fled Russia in 2022 after the invasion of Ukraine were detained under the Trump's immigration policies. According to reports, France has been instrumental in facilitating their safe relocation. France has offered asylum to Alexei Ishimov, an anti-Kremlin Russian activist who was detained by the US authorities. Alexei arrived in Paris on February the 16th, but his wife Nadizhda was stopped from boarding her flight because of a temporary travel document. The couple who fled Russia in 2022 after the invasion of Ukraine were detained under the Trump's immigration policies. According to reports, France has been instrumental in facilitating their safe relocation. We are now being joined back again by Ambassador KP Fabian. Thank you for joining us back here today on NewsX World. In what ways does this case highlight tensions between domestic immigration enforcement in the US and international human rights norms, particularly for political activists fleeing repression?
Well, it is evident that a political activist fleeing repression was not welcome in America. And if you go, remember in New York, there is a Statue of Liberty, and you know what is written there. So America is at fault. But I do admire France for giving them asylum because it will not be safe for them to go back to Russia.
And how does the long detention and stress experienced by the couple, including nearly 2 years separated in ICE facilities, inform debates on the treatment of asylum seekers and the insurrection with geopolitical conflicts?
That means, the ICE is acting in a manner without any norms. ICE does not want to make any distinction between A and B. It acts in a mechanical way and forced in a cruel.
Thank you so much, Ambassador KP Fabian, for joining us here today on NewsX World. In Bangladesh, Tariq Rahman is set to take over from an interim government that has steered the country of 170 million people for 18 months since the government of Sheikh Hasina was overthrown. Bangladesh Nationalist Party lawmakers are expected to formally elect Rahman as their leader, with President Mohamed Shabuddin then to administer the oath of office to the Prime Minister and his ministers. Rahman, 60, chief of the BNP and suzerain of one of the country's most powerful political dynasties, won a landslide victory in the February 12th elections. The new leader has pledged to restore stability and revive growth after months of turmoil that rattled investor confidence in the world's second largest garment exporter. We are now being joined by Colonel Retired Sanjeet Sirohi, who's an international relations and defence expert, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you for joining us here today on NewsX World. How might the transition from an interim government to an elected one affect political stability and institutional trust in Bangladesh?
Good afternoon, Ali. Now, for last 18 months or so, Bangladesh was under the interim government, which had no legality, which had no constitutional responsibility. and they were not elected by the people. So that was now the transition is from the interim government to the elected government. So now the things will be very clear what the policies will be followed by the government, and in that the basic main interest of Bangladesh people will be taken into consideration. As regard Mohammad Yunus, tenure was considered when he was heading the interim government. That time there were a lot of political instability, there were a lot of economic instability, there were a lot of instability with the neighbors. So I think with the elected government, the first thing, the priority for the elected government will be to stabilize every aspect of the administration and to make sure to have good relation with neighbors, especially with India. Ellie.
And what does Tariq Rahman's swearing in signify for the future of democratic governance in Bangladesh after years of political turmoil?
Well, for any government, the person who is elected by the people, when he is sworn in, so it shows that there is a pure democracy, not a pseudo democracy like it is in Pakistan. So I think now the people have elected, and he has won with landslide victory, winning about 212 seats, and the 77 seats have gone to Jamaat-e-Islami, which was a alliance of 11 party. So that itself shows that people have got confidence, trust and faith in the leadership of Mr. Rahman, who came back after 17 years. So it shows that the public there in Bangladesh are mature people and they know what is good for their country, and that's why the BNP has won so many seats. Ellie.
What challenges and priorities should the new parliament under Rahman focus on as they assume office?
Look, the first and the foremost is the economic stability, because before this agitation which took place in 2024, where Sheikh Hasina government was thrown, at that point of time, so the GDP of Bangladesh and the economy was doing much better. Now, in last 18 months, that economy has gone down, the growth rate has gone down. So it will be, I think, the first priority of this government will be to make sure that the people have trust and faith in the elected government. That is number one. So there should be a political stability, otherwise there was a lot of turmoil in the country. Secondly, the minorities, which include Hindus, Christians and Buddhists, they should also be taken into confidence, and it should be ensured that the proper security is given to the minority, which was the main problem during Mohammad Yunus when he was the advisor to the interim government. So I think the political stability, the internal stability, and over and above that is the economic stability, and Rahman should make sure that the path, the upward curve which was going on of the GDP, that should now come back, and now the GDP must improve of Bangladesh, as a result of which the companies or the factories which were closed during this period should be reopened. And the most important thing which I want to bring out is that the relations with the neighboring countries, especially India, should be improved. And they should not take into consideration that Sheikh Hasina is in India, and I am very glad to hear that their General Secretary has said that the stay of Sheikh Hasina in India is not going to deter the good relations between Bangladesh and India. Ellie.
And in light of recent uprising electoral changes, how can the BNP-led government promote national reconciliation and unity?
Well, I think if BNP has got 212 seats out of 300 something, then I think it shows that the people have faith and trust in this elected people. And if these elected people, they do their work properly, which means that they must make sure that there is no corruption, there is no atrocities, especially on the minorities. And over a period of time, once the people, they realize that, yes, now there is stability in the country, I think that will be a very good job done by Mr. Rahman. And I think he knows all about it, because his mother and his father, they have been in this political circle for so long. So I think he has those genes, he has those capabilities, and I think he will do a wonderful job. Not like Mr. Mohammad Yunus, who was there to antagonize everything and everyone in India. He understands that problem and he will try to reconcile and make sure that the relations with, especially with India, are improved. Because it is a fact that Bangladesh cannot live happily or they cannot make progress unless they have good relation with India, because especially of the trade and other things. Because Bangladesh is dependent on many things on India, and I think it will be in the interest of the Bangladeshi people that the government must ensure that they maintain good relation with India, and that's why Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi has sent Lok Sabha Speaker Mr. Om Birla for the swearing ceremony of Mr. Rahman. So I think it is a good gesture, and we hope that the relation between both the countries will improve.
And what implications could this leadership change have for Bangladesh's foreign relations, particularly with neighbouring countries in South Asia?
Look, as long as Sheikh Hasina was the Prime Minister, the relation with, I think, almost all countries were very good except for Pakistan. Because Pakistanis were the people who had created atrocities in Bangladesh. That time it was East Pakistan, and Awami League was the main party which was in favor of Bangladesh. So till then, the relations with, except for Pakistan, relations with all other countries, whether it was India, Nepal, Myanmar or China. Now, after Mohammad Yunus came, then things somehow changed and he got closer to Pakistan, and the relations with India took nosedive. And as a result of that, I think now with Mr. Rahman coming in, the relations with all the countries will improve, specifically with India. And it is in the interest of Bangladesh that the relation must improve with India. And India and Bangladesh can live very happily, and they can be very good neighbors, as they were earlier.
Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Lebanon's government has announced that its army will need at least 4 months to implement the second phase of its plan to disarm Hezbollah, focusing on the area between Litani and Awali rivers. This follows the completion of the first phase near the Israeli border. The move comes amid continued Israeli airstrikes on Lebanon, including one that killed 2 people on Monday. Israel has criticized Lebanon's progress, accusing Hezbollah of rearming. Meanwhile, visiting German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier urged Lebanon to continue disarming Hezbollah as part of the 2024 ceasefire agreement. Hezbollah's leader, Naim Qassem, has condemned Lebanon's disarmament efforts, calling them a grave sin.
وقرر ما يأتي أخذ العلم بعرض قيادة الجيش التقرير الشهري حول خطة حصر السلاح في المناطق اللبنانية كافة إنفاذا لقرار مجلس وزراء. جواب: إذا توافرت نفس العوامل المساعدة في فيز لاين، يعني فترة زمنية هي 4 أشهر قابلة للتمديد تبعا للإمكانات المتوافرة والاعتداءات الإسرائيلية والعوائق الميدانية.
Lebanon's government has announced that its army will need at least 4 months to implement the second phase of its plan to disarm Hezbollah, focusing on the area between the Litani and Awali rivers. This follows the completion Oscar-winning actor Robert Duvall, known for his iconic roles in The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, has passed away at 95. His death has led to an outpouring of tributes from Hollywood, with longtime collaborators such as Francis Ford, Coppola, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, praising his immense talent and lasting impact on American cinema. Coppola, who worked closely with Duvall over several decades, shared a heartfelt tribute on social media, recalling their numerous collaborations. The two worked together on iconic films such as The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, and The Conversation. Duvall's death marks the end of an era for Hollywood. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.